Steve, this is a blast from the late 90s. We're here with Starship Troopers Extermination, and I've done my part. We've gotten into a little bit of an early access look at this game. It is launching on early access as well, so we're going to see a lot of additions come to it in the few coming months. But getting into the first impression, what did you think of this one?
I really loved the film, so I kind of had expectations of what to expect, and I have to say, it didn't disappoint. So I'm going to start off, first off, is graphically, it wasn't bad looking. They did quite a nice job of it, and it looks like it's kind of set in that desert kind of feel to it. But unfortunately for me, that's all there is. There is no other different background scenery. It's just go from A to B in a kind of a desert kind of point, and loads of bugs.
Yeah, that's essentially the name of the game, is just push forward, stamp that piece of earth, and then defend it. But they pour in, and although I don't really remember too much of the scenery of the movie, it was, 20 years ago now, it's definitely the sandy desert look did a good enough job. The bugs are coming through the sand, they're busting up into the earth and really just pouring down the countryside. But you're right, I wish there was a little bit more of a change of scenery, maybe just different scenarios perhaps. That's one of the issues that I take with it, is that it's kind of one or perhaps two game modes, but they kind of play the same, and that is just move from maybe research station A and then station B, and then alright, now we build the base and defend, and that's okay, it works, but it's not terribly imaginative. And although there's 3 classes, I think you had just mentioned actually, it would have been nice to see a bit more change, or maybe more classes. There are things to unlock as you go through. You can level up your character, each of those different classes level individually, and there are different weapons, different kind of utility items you can take that will eventually reward you. But I want to touch on the graphics, because you did mention that it's not very high res. It's not terribly forward in today's technology era. It kind of, I don't want to disparage it, but I said Xbox 360 kind of in the past. I think that's maybe a little unfair. It's maybe early Xbox One generation, that's kind of the look of this game. But again, it is early access. We might see a bit of that tweak as it goes.
I played with a controller, like I always do on PC games, and I have to admit, they were quite responsive, especially like firing your gun and picking stuff up. I did have a little bit of issues of trying to navigate to use your abilities. Like if you're the attacker, you have a jetpack and things like that. And I had a bit of issue with that, but also another issue of building of stuff, because you get like the highlights, you can rotate, build walls and turret towers and things like that. But positioning it, and then you have to use your tool to, like a repair tool, to actually craft these walls or like towers basically. And for the short period of time, it was a bit not slow, but I wish I had that little bit more time to construct these walls and everything before the final onslaught of all the bugs coming towards you.
Yeah, but it gives you just a little bit of a countdown, and that's it.
Yeah, how did you fare with because you used mouse and keyboard, didn't you?
Yeah, it was all mouse and keys for myself, and sometimes I try and get on both sides just to see what the difference was, but I found mouse and keys worked just fine for me. It all made sense, or it would be brought up on screen, so it wasn't too hard to figure out, and that worked really well. There's a lot of keys to building and moving around and all sorts of weapon changing, so it all works out just fine. But there's again a bit of a simplicity to it. The tutorial really lasts about 5 minutes, I think. It just put down a building and build it. That's about as far as it goes. Well, we've spent some time and we've done some exterminating, and there was a lot of exterminating to be had. I am kind of torn when it comes to recommending this title. It is early access. It's not fair to put a number on it yet. But I was met with a lot of bugs going in. I had very strange results. Sometimes my control input would lag. A few times I was just out of contact at all. My character would just run forward endlessly. which is very dangerous when you're leaving your fortress. But it worked out just fine, enough for me to get in and see what the game is all about, and the control aspect wasn't an issue, not nearly all the time. Happened once or twice. So I do, in fact, recommend this game. If you're a fan of the movies, I think you're going to find some enjoyment here.
Yep, I recommend this game as well. This is a particular niche, and if you're a big fan of Starship Troopers and you just want to blast everything that's in front of you, there's definitely going to be plenty of that going on. I had some issues as well, like again, because it's early access, I had some texture issues as well, like my guy would get caught up on things, and you know, I did have some controller issues, but nothing too major. But the only disappointment is when it does get released is if there's going to be more content, because even though we had a lot of fun, if this is all there's going to offer, then it could get a bit, not boring, but a bit repetitive. Is my only concern. But for the time I've experienced and us playing co-op the other night, I'm going to recommend this game.